Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Heal and Shift podcast. This is now the 33rd episode. So really excited that we've been able to bring you a different vision of how things can be done to support your path towards health, healing and transformation. We've been doing this for 2 years now, and it's where I'm interviewing inspiring healers, inspiring practitioners, thought leaders, artists, even activists who help us expand our ways of thinking and doing and give us the tools to heal ourselves. And my guest today is Louise Mockford. I hope I said that right. Louise has been a body worker for over 15 years and initially qualifying in equine sports massage. So really looking forward to hearing more about this. And her studies then evolved to human bodywork, and this is coupled with her interest in psychology. And she actually completed her honours degree as a mature student. And Louise firmly believes that hands-on therapy is the best approach to helping others physically, psychologically, and emotionally. I got to connect with Louise because Louise has now taken over directorship of the School of Bodywork in Exeter in Devon, and I love her mantra. Being a good therapist is much more than simply applying techniques. So one of the big things about Louise is she encourages development of interpersonal skills in her teaching. Also, again, another thing I'm super passionate about. So welcome, Louise. And so Louise, I love this. Your career was initially formed by a whole horse approach. And
yes.
You were working with clients and their horses, and helping them in mind, body, relaxation. So tell us about this and what motivated that career choice.
I think it's very good to be here. Yes, it's I was born with horses in my blood. So very much, right from the word go. My mum had a riding school. And I, grew up on a horse. So that was very much, horses were always going to be part of my life. And mum was a riding instructor herself. So I think, it's one of those things when you're asked when you're little, what do you want to be when you grow up? My answer most of the time was a riding instructor like mum. That was that's what I want to do. Obviously things have changed a bit since then. So horses were always there. Really, I guess I'd been teaching in not in a professional capacity, but for, since I was a teenager, about, just general riding. But then it sort of developed more into actually understanding the biomechanics of the horse and the rider. You've got two living beings working, hopefully working as one, working in harmony with each other. And often it's disharmony when you see people riding. So that was very much where my passion started. And I thought, I need to go and learn about horse massage and horse physiology. So that was very much where that led me. And I did sports massage because, that was the conventional thing to do. And I think quite quickly I realised that that's all very well and good, but actually, you need to think about the human being that's actually on top of the horse and working supposedly with the horse. So they both, got to think of both of their biomechanics. So it started off very much like that. And then, of course, it opens it up into more of there's a bit more to it than just the biomechanics. There's that, that whole, just like we talk about, when we're talking about human body work and what we do, it's much more than just the physiology of it. So that sort of led me then down sort of various routes to, I did Reiki and things like that, and I did Bowen and similar sort of modalities to that. I think just started to really open up a whole other world.
Well, it's really interesting because recently a friend of mine, she has a cat, beautiful, sort of bluey grey colour, absolutely gorgeous. And this cat has a little brother, so they were talking to me about potentially, would I like to adopt the cat? Now the brother has a poorly stomach, and we were talking about why that could be the case. And these cats have been imported from abroad. They've been kept in cages in a small environment. At the moment, one of the cats in the family is living outside in a shed, and so it's created a lot of anxiety, in the animal's body, and hence the upset stomach as well. So it was really interesting, because I knew, we were going to have this podcast, and I thought it's absolutely fascinating, isn't it? Because it's no different to a human being. If we're not in optimum environment, if we're not in a balanced, loving environment, being fed and watered well, then it's going to bring up all sorts of stuff in our bodies. And also, if we've got energy coming from around us from another human, that is not in our best interests, then obviously that's also going to have an impact on us as well. So it's absolutely fascinating. It really is. I know we're based in Nottingham, but in Lincolnshire there are a lot more horses, and so hence there's a lot more equine sports massage therapists as well. And they, a few of them have trained with us in Tri-Dosha, and they very much talk about how the core aspect of their work is really working with the owner and actually working on their stuff, which then impacts. Fascinating.
It's I think it's very easy to say, I've worked a lot with horses with behavioural issues and things over the years, and the owners tend to be, it's their problem, it's their thing, they're just being
so
owners, often they're saying that it's the horse's problem, the horse is being difficult, this and that, and actually there's always so much more to it. Horses generally are not difficult by nature, they're just trying to communicate, and the only way they can communicate is body language, so it's I feel I'm very passionate about the welfare of horses, for sure. I'm also passionate about the welfare of humans. I think every living being, we all need to be understood. We can't, not all of it, just like horses, not every human can communicate verbally as well as others. There's all that. So I think that the horses have really sort of opened up that. I understand the observational side of things, just what people are saying, actually what is going on, with their body language and their, generally their energy and things like that. So
it's much more than maybe what they'll share. And I was actually reading while I was doing the research for this interview that equine therapy, it was first officially introduced in the 1940s as a supplement to traditional physical therapy, and it's also used in addiction therapy. So again, I guess that animals are much more attuned to our energetic vibrations. So when you were studying and when you've worked with animals and humans, what are the kind of results that you have seen? What can we learn from this?
I think, it's definitely one of those things that, when you actually experience things while you're there, and you actually feel things that happen, that's the real, that's the real experience. So it's difficult to communicate that without feeling it. However, certainly, when I was growing up, my mum did a lot. I look back now and I think she wasn't just a riding instructor. Actually, she was much more than that. And actually, she was unofficially a sort of therapist herself, because she used to do work with troubled teenagers and things. They used to come, and it was the whole, either riding or just being around the horses really helped them with their emotional issues, their trauma, their whatever was going on for them. So I definitely saw that very much firsthand, actually, just being able to, you know, just going into a stable and grooming a horse, you know, not doing anything spectacular, but just watching that connection and how it can settle someone, how it can affect the nervous system, and how the horse responds to that is really interesting. And we did, you know, one of the things we did was riding for the disabled as well. So, you know, things like you would see non-verbal people, you know, they'd never ever, you know, they've never really made a sound, and they'd get on a horse and they'd make sound for the first time. Just that feeling of, I don't know, there's just something spiritual, there's just something magical there. And that is something, when you actually witness that, I mean, you really feel it. It's amazing.
So so you went, this is the route, and then you went into, this led on to training in human bodywork. So it was first the horses and then human bodywork. And so how, you know, how have you weaved both those techniques together? And also, you know, what was your first job in the industry?
So I've always worked for myself, really. I've done a few odd jobs here and there in various industries in the past, but very much I've always been my own person, always been my own sort of boss. So I've only ever worked, you know, self-employed. So I've been to clinics, you know, run clinics from clinic spaces, shared clinic spaces, which has been really nice. And I think that definitely, you know, when you're first starting off, I think that's a really nice community to be in, you know, when you're with other therapists. So, you know, I have done in the past, years ago, when I was doing sort of Bowen and Reiki and things like that, I was traveling around, or I had people coming to me. But yeah, it's with the horses, obviously they can't come to me. So I was always traveling with, you know, to do the horses. And yeah, I think, I guess as I've got older and maybe a little wiser, hopefully, that, you know, I'm definitely more drawn to the human work now. I think partly practical reasons, you know, partly it's hard work going out and doing horses in all weathers and driving around everywhere and getting kicked and things like that, you know, which humans don't tend to do, but, you know, it could happen. But yeah, partly I think also, you know, everything, I think with the human world, human sort of therapy world, things are really, they're changing a lot. And I think that has enabled me to be, I don't know, to be more authentic as to, you know, in what I do, and not feel like I'm put into a box. You know, I think I was always a bit sort of, oh, am I this? Or, you know, I've done the sports massage, but I've done the energy work. And then where do I fit with that? Now I feel very much, I just fit where I fit, you know. I don't have to be in a box. I'm, you know, I work very much with experience and knowledge, because you have to have a base of knowledge. But, you know, it's intuition, and it's experience, and it's trusting your instinct, and it's you know, it's listening to yourself as well. So it's changed very much now. I really enjoying the human work. And
that kind of moves you from the head to the heart, I mean, doesn't it? You know, because when it's very easy to fall into that trap of, oh, I've studied this and this is the system and that's how I've got to do it and I've got to follow it like this, and yet, you know, when you work with hundreds and hundreds of people and work with all, you know, all aspects of different energy, and you see the results there firsthand in front of you, that's also where the, you know, the confidence in your own tuition and your own way of doing things, and actually that comes absolutely from the experience that you have. It doesn't come from, you know, this system that was, you know, created XYZ at a certain time in the world. You know, it's and I think that's a really good thing for other therapists and practitioners to hear as well. That we must trust in our own practices, we must trust in our own thinking, we must trust our own judgment, because ultimately that is coming from our place of truth. And what's interesting about you is then you carried on this journey, and then you trained in psychology as well, and you did your degree as a mature student. So you've got all of that now that comes into the work that you do. So how was it entering education as a mature student?
It was quite a few years ago. I was sort of doing it alongside the horse bodywork, and so I was sort of doing it alongside that. My belief was that I was going to be a clinical psychologist. You know, I love helping people, and that's where I'm going with it. That's actually what I'm going to be doing. And it was a very affirming experience, because actually it taught me a whole lot more than I expected it to, in a completely different way. So I was very sort of, again, thinking about the sports massage, I was always quite, I wanted the answers to everything. I wanted everything to be nice and black and white, and we know how this works, and then this works because of that. And, so when I did my psychology degree, it was a very science-based one. And I was really interested in the neuroscience and, all that. So, it's really getting my teeth into that. But actually, it made me realise, it's not just that, there isn't just this, there isn't a linear approach to things. Everything else comes into it, and you can talk about the mechanisms of things, but it goes so much wider than that, So yes, we did a bit of social psychology, but that's still not enough, that it's a much, much bigger area. And to me personally, thinking about the talk therapy, which is what I was thinking, that's what I want to do. Actually, I think that doesn't even hit the surface. There is so much more, and with the horse connection as well. And the more I was working with horses and the riders, and noticing my approach was getting lighter, and I was getting better results, and all these sort of things. And I was starting to discover about fascia and that sort of element of things. And it actually didn't sit right with me at all. So it was very useful, but not in the way I expected it to be.
Yeah. And that again brings exactly the way I work with the Ayurvedic system. What's wonderful about that training is that it is completely cohesive. It's a whole approach to health and well-being and healing. That there's many tools that we have in our toolbox that actually support our health and our greatest challenges to our health as well, but also in the sense of self-care, that it's one thing helping a client and fixing them, but ultimately if they're then not integrating self-care into their life as well, it's more likely that these things will crop up again. So it's what I in Ayurveda we talk about prevention is better than cure. So I guess with psychology and social psychology, there is that element of understanding the broader spectrum of how we live and how that can be leading to ill health or conditions or challenges in our health as well. So I can see how you would piece all of that together and then work in this more integrative approach. And what did you learn about yourself, Louise, through this process?
Oh, I'm still learning a lot about myself, and I think that will carry on. I think I think very much that it's really, I love helping people. I always have. It's always been that thing, and I've always been kindness is the most important thing and everything. But there has to be. You have to be able to control that. you know. So
Yes.
there's you know, you can give and give and give and give, and people will take and take and take, not intentionally necessarily, but they, you know, they will take and take, and that is very draining on yourself. So I think a lot, I mean, certainly, you know, over the years, and I will continue to learn, that self-care, you know, as a therapist is absolutely vital. And you have to, you know, actually, you know, for yourself, but also to create a safe space for whoever your client is. You have to know how to look after yourself. That's the big thing, because it's very easy, you know, a lot of therapists come into the business because they want to help people, which is lovely, you know, wonderful, but it's often at their own expense, which certainly has happened to me in the past.
Yes.
And
do you think that a boundaries a boundaries part of that as well? Would you feel boundaries are part of that? Yeah,
definitely.
I agree. I've had the same lessons, and actually even recently, you know, that lesson popped up again, and it's quite a roller coaster to go through it, because if you have a more empathetic personality and you're in service with your work, you know, therapists, practitioners, we're all in service, teachers, you know, healthcare professionals, having those boundaries, it's kind of like, it almost goes against the grain of the energy that you are embodying and putting out into the world, but without it, like you say, you just get drained, and you can't best approach your client's needs from, you know, if you're not filled up with all the good stuff as well.
It is so true. And I think, you know, with the School of Bodywork, that's very much, you know, at the core of what I teach, you know, particularly with the, you know, the therapists coming through newly qualified. Actually, you know, it's lovely that you want to give, and you see people giving their all and, you know, giving their heart, and it's lovely, but you need to learn how to rein it in, so that, you know, you can share it out, but also you can keep yourself healthy, really.
And there's professional ways to embody that and do that, and I think that, you know, the more you develop your own understanding around these things and these concepts, and the more wise you become to your own energy and nature, the easier it becomes. I mean, I was only listening to a podcast yesterday about a lady who she's not a practitioner, she's actually an entrepreneur in America, but she does a lot of training around boundaries, because she runs a lot of courses, and she's also she reads the Bible. She's a Christian, but she doesn't follow it in the black and white sense. She takes the essence of what feels right. But she was also saying, you know, some people in service also go to the spiritual texts or the you know, their faith, and they forget about themselves, because they think the whole reason, you know, that they're breathing a breath is to constantly be in service. And she you know, and it was really interesting, because she was saying, well, you know, with when you're not in a position of strength, there's very little that you can do for other people. So it's interesting, isn't it, to have these conversations. And I try to with my students as well, Louise, but again, it is the lesson of life, isn't it, that just, you know, as we travel through life, and as we mature, we tend to we might learn things the hard way, but ultimately it brings us to the knowledge that we need to have to move forward. And this has all led to your new directorship. You've taken on the School of Bodywork now in Exeter in Devon. For those who are not familiar with the school, School of Bodywork has been in running courses for 14 years now. I know you have full qualifications that students, it's, you know, a year, and then you've got the shorter courses as well, and you've been involved in the school for 6 years. So tell us about this journey. What brought you to make the decision to take this position on, and what do you hope for the future?
Well, so so I have been involved in various capacities for about 6 years now, and Emma Gilmore, who founded the school and was the director up until a month or two ago, really, I think because we'd worked so closely together, I think she wanted to move on. She's doing her more specialist things, and because I'd been there and done that and got the t-shirt with a lot of the School of Bodywork stuff already, it made sense that I would be the person to take it on and carry it forward in my way. I think I've always really enjoyed being a part of it, and I'm very passionate about the sort of the sense of community and the support that therapists need. So people go out there and get trained, and they go off, and it's a very sort of isolating job sometimes. You are on your own in a treatment room with your clients. And I feel that a lot of people, they go through training somewhere and then that's it. They've gone out into the world and then they're lost. They don't have anyone to connect with. So I think from my point of view with the School of Bodywork, I very much want it to be a really cohesive, supportive community. So whether that's current students or whether it's ex-students, actually we all have experiences that are valid to share. We all have knowledge that we can share. However experienced you are, in life, we all have things that we can, we've experienced and we can share. And that, I think, is, that's very much at the heart of it. Yes, it's about education, but actually the more we can support each other, the more we can support the wider community, and we can support our clients better. So it very much comes from, it's a very sort of heart-centered sort of approach that I just, I really feel that we all have so much to give and receive. So to make it that kind of community, particularly after the dreaded COVID and everything, all that, that has very much brought it even more so to the point where we need that. And
I mean, we are living through the greatest challenge, I believe our healthcare system has ever faced. So with that in mind, what are your go-to tips in a crisis situation? What are your top 3?
Oh dear, 3. Well, it always depends on the crisis, doesn't it? I think it depends on the crisis. But I mean, first of all, breathe. Breathe is always good. Breathing is a really useful tip. Just even if it's just one breath, just to take stock, just to enable you to take stock of the situation. And I think what we don't tend to do as humans in this society particularly is actually allow the sort of the processing of things, so when a crisis, whatever that crisis may be, that it happens, we tend to suppress everything. We're like, oh no, everything's fine, right, everything's good, we're stiff upper lip sort of, everything's fine. We haven't actually had a chance to process whatever that crisis is, which causes disharmony, as you all know, in the body, and that then potentially creates problems going forward that manifest as physiological issues. So very much, I think, whenever there is some sort of crisis, then I think it's really, really important for you to, once you've got the opportunity to express the emotions, the physiology of it, that is really, really important, because I think that is how you move forward, particularly, thinking about animals. Animals will shake it out, they'll run it off, they'll, they will deal with that in that sort of emotional upset in a very physical way, and we don't tend to do that. And I think it's much more helpful for us if we do that. So, you know, even if it's just, you know, allowing yourself to cry or allowing yourself to shake, or, you know, allowing that expression to come out and not suppress it. I think that, you know, it's not always possible at that exact moment when some crisis is happening, because sometimes you can't do that, you know, but to be able to allow it out is really important, you know. And it's okay.
So less of the masks, I think.
Yeah.
Just raise the energy. Let the energy, we talk a lot in Ayurveda, life force and prana, and you know, this needs to be extended through the body. It shouldn't be closed off. So that would be my way of sharing exactly what you said, I think, from that Eastern perspective. And how do you see the future of healthcare evolving? What do you think it's going to look like in the next 3 to 5 years?
Oh, that's a question, isn't it? I think, I mean, it's, you know, obviously we've got with the NHS and everything that's going on with that at the moment. I think it's interesting, you know, from a sort of a clinical perspective, I'm definitely seeing more people who have either been sort of you know, referred from GPs, because GPs are under this, you know, I mean, they're under immense pressure. They have rules that they have to stick to, etc., 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 and they can't, you know, they can't cope. So some people are coming into them and they're saying, how about you know, you maybe try this. I think they're starting to recognize that we as therapists, whatever we do, we have a value that at the moment they, you know, they just literally do not have the time to put to it. So that's really quite interesting. I've definitely seen a lot more of that in the last few months. That actually, what I'm hoping is that, you know, in time it will become more, I sort of hate to use the term, but more mainstream, that actually there's a bigger community of people that can help people. You know, certainly with things like chronic pain and what have you, you know, just giving them some pills, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't help. It doesn't actually get to the root of the problem. It's causing all sorts of other problems. So, and I think sadly, because of the state of the NHS, I think actually that's, in a way, could be a very useful thing to actually, you know, getting people, you know, to take more responsibility for their own health, but also know that there are other people out there that can support them. And I think that's, you know, that's, in a way, although it's quite scary at the moment with what's going on with everything, in a way, I hope that will, you know, give it, I think it already is, giving people the push to see the bigger picture, perhaps. And so in a way it's quite exciting.
Yes, absolutely. I would absolutely agree. And you know, so thank you so much for your time and just your vision for School of Bodywork. How are you going to move through 2023? What's the vision?
The vision 2023 is just getting to grips with all the bits and pieces and nitty gritty and all the boring back end things that, you know, just getting everything slick, how I want it. Because obviously I'm, you know, changing it into sort of my way. But we've got very excited to get a couple of tutors back who pre-COVID were teaching, who are brilliant. So I've got a new course coming on. I can't give you too much detail because but so we're doing an advanced bodywork diploma, which is going to be a sort of a level 4 diploma, so much more in depth, and really encompassing a whole range of types of massage, fascial work. So it's trying to sort of, you know, rather than just saying we're just using this method to treat a shoulder injury, we're actually saying okay, so what are all the options that we can do here, and thinking about the, you know, the body as a whole. So that's really exciting. I think that would be a really, really good course, but it's taking some doing, putting it all together.
Oh, yes, none of these, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Exactly.
It all takes time. It all takes time, but it's very exciting. And I'm certainly excited to be with you guys again in May later this year. And so for those who want to get in touch with the school, please let us know the contacts. We'll also put them into the podcast so people can just click through.
Mm-hmm.
So it is.
So we got the School of Bodywork website, which is www.schoolofbodywork.com. So nice and simple. And that really, that should have all the information on there. It also has the Instagram links and the Facebook links and things as well. And yeah, so you can contact us through any of those ways, and email us, which is just info@schoolofbodywork.com. And yeah, I mean, we're really encouraging people to contact us, you know, connect with us. We've got Facebook groups that we're sort of starting back up again, just to encourage everybody to come back and share things. So that's mostly for graduates, or, you know, once people have been on courses, they can then go into their little group on there to support each other. So that there's quite a lot going on.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Good.
So do connect with us if you
want.
Oh,
yes, absolutely. You're expanding your community as we speak. I know. Wonderful. Well, Louise, thank you so much for joining us today. And I know we've got another Instagram as well on March the 22nd. So I look forward to that, a live Instagram. And you have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.